a group called the Hyphae Design Lab, and they're a sort of very radical, ecologically focused architecture firm, an environmental engineering firm, and landscaping firm that's based out of Oakland. And their whole approach to any sort of design thinking is to start with the ecology, right? And that's really why we've kind of enlisted their help in this project, is not just to send it off to an environmental engineer who's sort of unrelated to everything and an outside consultant, but to have at the center of putting together this proposal someone who starts with this understanding the environment and uses that as sort of the core for what they're planning going forward.
Repeat the name.
Sure. Yeah, right up here. It's called the Hyphae Design Lab, which has kind of a funny spelling. So, Hyphae is the network that lives underground in mushrooms. That's correct. I think of sort of typical design groups. They usually start with what do we need, what do we want to see, and then figure out how can you put that in place with the least environmental impact as possible. This group sort of turned that approach on its head and starts by saying, what does the site actually need, and how can we design something that works within those parameters, which I think is awesome, is very much in line with sort of our philosophy, but I don't think is actually that common. And so when we were introduced to them through Common Contact, and we're kind of like, wow, this is really exciting, and decided to enlist their help. What this group specializes in is, rather than separating out all these things, they put everything in-house. So they have environmental engineers and ecologists and landscape architects and civil engineers all in the same group. And so, like what you're saying, a lot of times you just have a totally separate environmental engineer, right, and then they stay sort of as a consultant to the project. We wanted to make sure that someone with all this understanding is actually in the middle of thinking about the management of that site. We also have enlisted the help of big, very kind of large environmental engineering firm, because they have access to more experts. So if we need an expert for a specific geophysical or hydrological test, they can bring that in, but it's all centered under the group that's thinking about how to manage this site.
And when you say the site, what exactly you mean by the site? What site?
Yeah, so we're
What is the site, the outline?
yeah, so what we're looking at is the watershed, right? So starting where Reservoir Road sort of turns around, and then down to the end of the school lot.
Oh, okay.
First and foremost, our goal is to understand what needs to be done for the long-term health of that watershed. Is this something that could be good for this site or not, right? Because we're an environmental program. We're trying to teach students how to take care of the land. If we ruin the land in trying to do that, it obviously doesn't work, right? So that's been one of the most important questions for me on a personal level. And the answer is no. There's a lot of damage up there that, and again, this is not through in-depth study. This is people's sort of ballpark estimates. But then the work that we're going to be doing to put together the nuts and bolts of that proposal are going to very strongly take that into account, because we recognize if we don't have answers to resident concerns, if we can't be good neighbors in the long run, then our program doesn't work either, right? I mean, the whole point, again, is to have students have an experience where they're participating positively in a community. If it turns out that that's not possible, we can't really fool ourselves and have a program that isn't able to do what it needs to do. One, we teach kids how to take care of land. So I know you and I disagree on this, Tommy, but I actually believe very deeply that we can make that site much, much healthier. And I think that enlisting experts who understand ecology, who understand some of the nuances of how watersheds work, can really help preserve the ecological health of that site. And in doing so, teach students how to do that here and elsewhere, right? And set an example for how sites can be used in a way that really facilitates their health, right? The county recognizes the academic value of engaging students in taking care of land, and so that's one of the things that they allow to do. Tommy, if they don't let us do it, they don't let us do it, right?